Hi guys. So we're doing lesson 7.9 today. I'm going to work through the part in the book. I'm on page 341. So it says 1/3 of a 1¼ acre park has been reserved as a dog park. Find the number of acres that are used as a dog park. So if 1/3 of it is being used as a dog park, is it going to be less than or greater to the entire area of the park, all 1¼ acres of the park, 1/3 of it? It is going to be less than. So in the little green box over to the side, we're going to write less than. Step 1. Just a second. And so number 1 says we need to shade in this model to represent the whole park. So it gives you a whole, and then it gives you one that's already cut into quarters. So we are going to shade in the whole. And then we are going to shade in an extra quarter. So that is the entire park. Number 2 says to shade in the model again to represent the part of the park that is the dog park. Well, the dog park is 1/3, so we need to divide each of these blocks into 3. So I'm drawing 2 lines through it to divide each of them into 3. And now I'm going to shade again. This time I'm going to use green, and I'm only going to do the top third. Do you see? Okay. So, I'm sorry. For step 1 under the think, it is the whole park is 1¼ meters. Step 2, think. The dog park is 1/3 of the park. Draw horizontal lines across each rectangle to show 3 parts. Those are the thinks. How many parts does each rectangle show? So each itty bitty little one shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 parts. What fraction of each rectangle is shaded twice? 1, 2, 3, 4/12 and 1/12. What fraction represents all the parts shaded twice? 4/12 plus 1/12 is equal to 5/12. Are we with me so far? Because the bottom stays the same, denominator always stays the same, we add the numerator. 4 plus 1 is 5. Okay, so I got the 4/12 from here, the 1/12 from here. 4/12 plus 1/12 is equal to 5/12. So 5/12 acre has been set aside. Okay, so 5/12 acre has been set aside. Another way that we could have done it was to rename the mixed number as a fraction. So I could have taken 1¼ and made it into an improper number. We do that by taking the whole number, which is a 1, multiplying it by the denominator, which is a 4. 1 times 4 is 4. Adding the numerator, which is a 1, 4 plus 1 is 5. And then putting it all over the denominator, which is a 4. So we would end up with 1/3 times 5/4, which is the same as 1 times 5 over 3 times 4. You can tell which blue boxes you need to fill in. And 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 4 is 12. So 1/3 times 1 1/4 equals 5/12. And this paused. Give me a second. Okay, so you can see 1/3 times 1 1/4 is equal to 5/12. Pause it if you need to. I'm moving on. On page 342, example 1, we have 12 times 2 1/6. Determine, so 12 times 2 1/6. Will the product be greater than or less than 12? Well, I have 2 full sets of 12 and then a little more. So the product is going to be greater than 12. And that's step 1. So it's greater than. Step 2, write the whole number and mixed number as fractions. So remember, any whole number has an invisible 1 underneath it. And then let's make this mixed number into an improper fraction. So the whole number, 2 times the denominator, 6, gives us 12, plus the numerator, 1, gives us 13 over 6. So then I have 12 over 1 times 13 over 6, which, right, okay, so I now need to do my multiplication for this one. Let me choose a different color. 12 times 13. So first off, 3 times 2, which is 6. 3 times 1, which is 3. Put the 0 as a placeholder. 1 times 2, which is 2. 1 times 1, which is 1. Add it together. 6 plus 0 is 6. 3 plus 2 is 5. 1 plus nothing is 1. So I have 156 over 1 times 6, which is just 6. That goes into our first box. All right, that goes into our first box. Now it wants us to do this. And take a different color. 156 over 6, and it wants us to divide stuff out. I can divide out a 2 because both of them are even. 156 divided by 2. All right, so 2 goes into 156 how many times? 2 cannot go into 1. 2 times what is 15? That doesn't work, but close to 15. 2 times 7 gives us a 14. That's as close as we're going to be able to get. 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down the 6. 2 times what is 16? 8. So 2 times 8 is 16. 16 minus 16 is 0. So I have a 78 on the top, and I have a 6 divided by 2, which is 3 on the bottom. Can I take, since the bottom is a 3, the only thing I can take out of the bottom is a 3. The question is, can I take a 3 out of 78? Well, the way we know if we can take a 3 out of something is we add all the numbers together and then see if it's divisible by 3. 7 plus 8 is 15. 1 plus 5 is 6. That's divisible by 3, so we will be able to divide by 3 here. Divide by 3, divide by 3. So we end up with 3 goes into 78, 3 goes into 7. How many times? 3 times what? Well, we can't get there exactly, but 3 times 2 gets us to 6. So we're going to do that one. 7 minus 6 is 1. Bring down the 8. 3 goes into 18. How many times? 6. 3 times 6 is 18. So 18 minus 18 is 0. So the entire thing ends up being equal to 26. Because 3 divided by 3 is just 1. And remember, if we have a 1, we don't need to have it there. We can just have the number. Example number 2. We have 16 times 4 and 1/8. Let me move this up. 16 times 4 and 1/8. Step 1, rewrite it using the distributive property. So I end up with 16 times the 4, which is the whole number, plus the 1/8, which is the fraction. So that makes the entirety of that number. 4 plus 1/8 is equal to 4 and 1/8. You see that? Okay. So now it wants us to distribute that 16 to each of them. So we end up with 16 times 4 plus 16 times 1/8. Okay, see where we're at here? So I'm going to get another color. Let's do 16 times 4. 6 times 4 is 24. 4 goes there, 2 goes there. 4 times 1 is 4, plus the 2, which is 6. So I end up with 64 plus 16 times 1/8. Remember, we have the invisible 1 underneath the 16. So we end up with 16 over 8. Well, 8 goes directly into 16. So 16 divided by 8 is straight up 2. That's where they're getting their 2 from. So they have 64 plus 2 is equal to 66. And so that is the final answer for our problem. So 16 times 4 and 1/8 is equal to 66. Okay, going on to a new sheet of paper. Number 1, explain why you might choose to use the distributive property to solve example number 2. So why would I decide to use distribution instead of something else? Well, one possible reason could be because I am multiplying a mixed number by an by a whole number. Because if you're going to multiply by a whole number, you only have the one number to worry about. I would not at this point suggest doing mixed number times mixed number using the distribution method. There is a way to do it, but I think you're going to get yourself incredibly confused trying to do it that way, and I'm not actually going to teach you how to do it that way. You'll learn how to do that in, oh good golly, when do we learn that? 9th grade, I think. There's an actual way to do it, but for now, only use the distribution method if it is a whole number and a mixed number that you are multiplying by each other, not if it's two mixed numbers. Number 2, when you multiply two factors greater than 1, so both of them are going to make the other one have more than one part, are you going to end up with a product that is less than, between, or greater than 1? And I do not know why it is doing that. Just a second. Let me check on my camera. Sorry. Hopefully it will stop doing that. So I have two mixed numbers. I have two numbers that are more than 1. I'm taking more than one of both parts, which means my answer will always be greater than, because I have two numbers that are taking more than one part. So whenever you're taking more than one part, you're always going to end up with more at the end. Okay, so let's go do the share and show. Number 1 says 1 2/3 times 3 4/5. So I am going to make both of these improper fractions. The whole number 1 times the denominator 3 is equal to 3, plus the numerator 2 is equal to 5 over 3. So we have 5/3. Then the second number, 3 times the denominator 5 is equal to 15, plus the numerator 4 is equal to 19 over 5. Just a second. Sorry, my computer is being weird. Okay, so I ended up with 19/5 being the improper fraction for 3 4/5. Then I'm going to multiply these by each other. So 5 thirds times 19 fifths. We end up multiplying the numerators, 5 times 19, and the denominators, 3 times 5. Well, I already know what 3 times 5 is. 3 times 5 is 15. But I do not know what 19 times 5 is right off the top of my head, so we need to do that one. 19 times 5. 9 times 5 is 45. 5 down there, the 4 up here. 5 times 1 is 5 plus the 4, 9. So 95 over 15. This has me wondering if we'll be able to take a straight up 15 out of this, because just about everything else that they've given us so far, we've been able to divide out and actually ended up with a whole number. So I see that I can take out a 5. I can take out a 5 because they both end in 5s. 15 is just 3 times 5, so I'm wondering if I can take out a 3. 9 plus 5 is 14. 1 plus 5 is 5. No, I will not be able to take out a 3. So I can take out a 5 from both of these. Divided by 5. Sorry. Okay, so 95 divided by 5. 5 into 95. 5 goes into 9. 5 times what can go into 9? 5 times 1. Because 9 minus 5 is 4. Bring down the 5. I end up with 5 going into 45, which is 9. So I end up with 19 over 15 divided by 5, which is 3. 19 over 3. And I am going to leave it. No, we started with mixed numbers, so we need to go back to mixed numbers. So we're going to do division again. 3 into 19. 3 goes in. 3 times what can get us near 19? 3 times 6, because 3 times 6 is 18. 19 minus 18 is 1. Bring the 1 up there and the third. And so we end up with 6 1/3. Number 2. I have 1 1/8 times 2 1/3. I need to change both of these mixed numbers into improper fractions. 1 1/8 becomes 1 times the denominator, which is 8. So 8 plus the numerator, which is 1. 8 plus 1 is 9 over 8. And then 2, which is the whole number, times the denominator, which is 3. 2 times 3 is 6, plus the numerator, which is 1, is equal to 7 over 3. So our problem is actually 9/8 times 7/3. Multiplying straight across, 9 times 7 is 63. 8 times 3 is 24. Looking at those, I cannot take out a 2 because the 63 is odd. I cannot take out a 5 because neither of them end in a 0 or a 5. Can I take out a 3? 6 plus 3 is 9. I can take a 3 out of that. And 2 plus 4 is 6. I can take a 3 out of that. So I can definitely take a 3 out of these. So I'm going to divide by 3. 3 goes into 63. 3 goes into 6. 3 times what is 6? 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So 6 minus 6 is 0. Bring down the 3. 3 times what is 3? 1. So 3 times 1 times 3 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. So I have a 21 on the top. 24 divided by 3, that's one of our facts. How many? 3 times what is 24? 8. So now we again have an improper fraction, which we need to turn into a mixed number. 8 into 21 goes how many times? 8 times what will give us around 21. It's not going to be exact. Times 2, because 8 times 2 is 16. We're going to subtract that. I cannot do 1 minus 6, so I need to borrow. Cross out the 2, make it a 1, make that an 11. 11 minus 6 is 5. I cannot take 8 into 5, so I am left with 5/8. And our final answer is 2 and 5/8. Pause it if you need to. I'm moving on. Number 3 is 3/4 times 6 and 5/6. So we're still in the part where they're having us do it by changing a mixed number to an improper fraction. And so that's what I'm going to do with this one. The 3/4 is already fine. The 6 and 5/6, however, needs to be changed. So we're going to go 6 times the denominator, the whole number, which is 6, times the denominator, which is also 6. 6 times 6 is 36, plus the numerator, which is 5. 36 plus 5 is, that one's a little more complicated, isn't it? Well, how about 6 plus 5 is 11. So I put the 1 there, carry over the 1, and then 3 plus 1 is 4. So I end up with a 41 over our denominator, which is a 6. So that is equal to 3/4 times 41/6. Okay, so we have to do numerator times numerator, top times top, over denominator times denominator, bottom times bottom. 41 times 3. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 4 is 12. So I have 123 on the top over 4 times 6, which is 24. Now, let's think. What can we take out of this? Well, I can't take out a 2 because 123 is an odd number. I can't take out a 5 because neither one of them end in a 5 or a 0. Let's see if I can take out a 3. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6. 6 is divisible by 3, so yes, I can take a 3 out of that one. 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 is divisible by 3, so yes, I can take a 3 out of that one. So let's take out a 3. 3 into 123. Okay, so 3 cannot go into 1, but it does go into 12. How many times? 3 times what will give you 12? How many times does 3 go into 12? 4, because 3 times 4 is 12. 12 minus 12 is 0. Bring down the 3. 3 times what is 3? 3 goes into 3. How many times? 3 times 1 is 3. So 3 minus 3 is 0. We are left with a 41 on the top. What is 24 divided by 3? 3 times what is 24? 8. So our 8 goes on the bottom. Then we come over here and we once again have an improper fraction. Let's change it back to a mixed number. 8 goes into 41 how many times? 8 times what? Is not 41 exactly, but around 41. 5, because 8 times 5 is 40. 1 minus 0 is 1. 4 minus 4 is 0. So I have 1/8, and we're equal to 5 1/8 up at the top for number 3. Number 4 wants us to use distribution property. So I have 16 times 2.5. I rewrite that as 16 times 2 plus 1/2, which I then distribute. And it becomes 16 times 2 plus 16 times 1/2. Okay? 16 times 2. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 1 is 2 plus the 1, which is 3. So we have a 32 there. Plus 16 times 1/2. The 16 times the 1 is going to put the 16 on the top. And then remember that invisible 1 that we got there? The 1 times the 2 is going to put the 2 on the bottom. So it actually ends up being, what is 16 divided by 2? 16 divided by 2. 2 times what is 16? 8. So we end up with 32 plus 8. Well, okay. 2 plus 8 is 10. 0 goes there, 1 goes up there. 3 plus 1 is 4. For a total of 40. And finally, number 5. 1 4/5 plus 15. So we are going to do distribution again. And just so that we don't get confused, remember we can switch things around with multiplication. That's the commutative property of multiplication. I'm going to put the whole number, the 5 times, not plus. I'm going to put the whole number, the 15 first, and then the 1 4/5. So I can go 15 times 1 plus 4/5. So I can do it like that. All right, with me so far? Cool. So then I'm going to distribute to each of those, which gives me a 15 times 1 plus 15 times 4/5. Now the 15 times 1 is easier because anything times 1 is itself. However, the 15 times 4/5 is quite a bit more difficult than our 16 times 1/2 that we had up there. So let's bring it over here. 15 times 4/5. There's an invisible 1 underneath that 15. We are going to multiply straight across, numerator times numerator. So 15 times 4. 15 times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. So 0 goes there, 2 goes up there. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2, 6. So I have a 60 on the top, and I have 1 times 5, which is 5, on the bottom. I can take 5 into 60, so let's do that. 5 goes into 60 how many times? 5 goes into 6. 5 times what is about 6? You're not going to get an exact. 1. So I'm going to subtract 5 from the 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. Bring down the 0, which gives us a 10. 5 times what is 10? 5 times 2 is 10. And then if we subtract that, we end up with a 0 at the bottom. So this is actually equal to 12. 15 plus 12 is, let me rewrite that over here, 15 plus 12. 5 plus 2 is 7. 1 plus 1 is 2. So 15 plus 12 is equal to 27. And then it is down at on your own. I think you can do it. I got faith in you. Have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.